To combat these forces, the U.S. needed to develop a new kind of warrior.
The officers need to understand. They need to go to school and understand the culture that they're within. They need to be able to recognize things that might not play well, the way you treat villages, the way you act. I mean, you may be thinking that you're being polite. You're really not. Those sort of things that the officers need to know. I don't think the enlisted men really do need to know that. From a special forces point of view, though, they do need to know that, and they do know that, and they did know that in Vietnam. That's all those famous pictures that I guess it was Life magazine did of Vern Gillespie in 1962 and 63. You've probably seen them playing with the children, the Montagnards. This is the sort of things they were taught to do, and they did it very well. So Special Forces, and Special Forces still does that. That's why we have groups, Special Forces groups that are devoted to one area.
The old concept of an SF warrior as fire-breathing commando had to be rethought. The new Special Forces warrior had to be politically and psychologically sensitive to the environment where he operates. But before you could create the perfect super soldier, you had to build the foundation of the fighting man. Jump and Ranger School became the 101 courses for building the warriors of Special Ops. The future warriors came to Jump School for a variety of reasons. For some, like Larry Riley, it was a youthful impulse.
I was an 18-year-old kid, a 17-year-old kid at this time, and I wanted to be a paratrooper, okay? So there's not a lot of thought to it.
For others, it was a chance to get out of a messy situation.
I got in some trouble that summer of '60, and the officer that was talking to me knew my father, and he said, why don't you do something with your life, and you ever thought about the service? What was ironic is in basic training, it's all new and you're just a recruit. I was on mess hall duty in KP, and I heard the first sergeant out in the background in the company area saying anybody who was going airborne fall out and do the airborne PT test. You still have to physically qualify for the airborne. So I said, mess sergeant, I'm supposed to be airborne. I'm going out there. Of course, I don't know if he knew. He probably thought I was trying to sandbag and get out of mess hall duty, but I'm missing my opportunity here. I'd already been rejected by the Navy because I was too mean, I guess. And then, anyway, he said, you're in the mess hall. He said, you can go airborne later. You're in my mess hall now. Keep washing them pants.
Since the dark days before America's entry into World War II, this was the toughest training any American fighting man could face.
Oh, jump school. It's hell, I'll say that. They talk about hell week in the Navy, but boy, every time your left foot hits the ground, you holler airborne, and everything's done at a double time. And they're trying to weed out who really doesn't have the heart to stay there.
Endless physical training, hard discipline, and the danger of jumping out of a perfectly good airplane. This was the furnace that tempered the steel that would be the sword of American foreign policy in the Third World.
We throw things at you rather fast. You've got to react immediately. Because later on, if you don't react immediately, you will be a casualty. And you're doing us no good. We have to put you in an old pine box because you didn't use your noodle. You'll be exposed to pain and punishment and other little devices that we'll think of for one reason and one reason only. To make you the type of person we need to get the job done, no matter what the job is.
The Special Forces training process began in what is called the Q course, held at the Smoke Bomb Hill area of Fort Bragg. The Q course is a mixture of classroom training and field activity with the weight on field. The basic unit in Special Forces is the A-Team. There are only 12 people in an A-Team.
Generally on an A-Team, you would have a demolitions guy, you would have a communications guy, you would have a language guy, you have a medic who's almost the equivalent of a doctor, a medic that could perform surgery. At Fort Bragg, there's a great demonstration of some of the skills of Special Forces, and I'd be impressed. Not every member of Special Forces can do what the next guy can do. You're cross-trained. You're always cross-trained. But I mean, there are guys who could just break into anything. They could take a padlock and tap it with their fingernail and it'd fall open.
Each member of the team is cross-trained in a number of jobs vital to completing the team's mission many miles behind enemy lines. Among the team, there is no discrimination because of rank. If your mission falls into one of your specialties, you are in charge.
I remember, well, basic training, like the sergeant's the sergeant, and the officers are like, they're way up there, like all you do with officers is salute, stand at attention, and say, yes, sir. But then when you got into group, there was a mutual respect for ability and talent. I use the word talent because they did find in each individual something that you really know how to do. And they put that to work. And the officers showed a lot of respect to the enlisted men, so the enlisted men, obviously. And in combat, something, it really doesn't matter what rank you are. If you're a jerk, you can be fragged. It doesn't matter how many stars you have on your shoulder. If you're mistreating other guys, the chances are good that someone will consider, I'm not going to let this guy pick on me. But there's a lot of respect for officers because they knew what they were doing, and they knew that we knew how to do what we were supposed to do.
In the Vietnam-era A-Team, each soldier had to be an expert marksman with the basic weapon of the U.S. infantry, his M16, and with any enemy weapon he may encounter on the battlefield. He had to not only know how to fire them, but also how to maintain, modify, and repair each weapon.
They were given special training, superpowers, you might say. Knowledge is power.
After a week of primary instruction, the teams moved into the field for 2 weeks of hands-on training. The A-teams would form up to deploy in enemy country. The teams were expected to contact indigenous people and turn them into guerrillas. These were usually played by soldiers of support units from Fort Bragg who dressed as civilians. They would then take these units to blow up bridges and communication centers, as well as set up ambushes and develop civil affairs work aimed at winning the hearts and minds of the people.
Under ambush, the riflemen start shooting, whether you're on foot or in a truck, deuce and a half or 3/4 ton truck. The riflemen start shooting at you. So the natural tendency is to jump for cover to the other side, maybe into a buffalo hole where they used to waller, to cool off a little bit, a water buffalo. And as soon as you do that, then the machine gun is on you. So the only option really is to go for the live fire. You go directly into the rifleman. It's almost generally a no-win situation. So that was in preparation for the types of ambushes that we would experience. But we, because of the guerrilla operations, rarely experienced ambushes except in long-distance travel.
Better to get killed at Bragg than get killed for keeps in Nam. Soldiers who completed this successfully were rewarded with the cherished flash on their green beret.
These were badasses. Look, they're not all 300-pound guys who look like Arnold Schwarzenegger. There are a lot of brains in Special Forces, and a lot of times on an A-team, although you do have, you have to meet certain physical requirements. A lot of it is brains over brawn.
It was now time to put all that training to the test.
My darling Mick, today has been another long day at Mong Su, Laos, but at least it's ended and I'm that much closer to being with you and Robin once again. You know, I actually enjoy this tour of duty so long as I'm busy enough to keep my thoughts from wandering back to you. Our mission's classified, but I do think we are making a difference. Captain Joe Bush, Advisor to Laotian Forces, Mong Su, Laos.